One important area of research in sociology takes up questions around gender. In this video, I just want to quickly introduce you to some of the reasons why sociologists study gender, and I'll use the specific topic of gender and occupations as a way to introduce you to some pretty useful concepts. I'm going to start by giving you a couple of definitions. Making a distinction between gender and sex actually allows for sociologists to study this topic. When sociologists talk about sex, we're really referring to a person's biology. Sex is a biological category based on anatomy. We often use the words male or female to discuss a person's sex. When we discuss gender, though, we're often using words like feminine and masculine. There are many other ways of discussing gender and sexuality, of course, but let's just start with these by way of introduction. For sociologists, gender is cultural. It's a set of behaviors learned through human interaction. There's meaning ascribed to a certain kind of biology. You'll often hear a lot of sociologists use this term, social construction, to address a wide range of social issues. Let's leave aside our discussion of gender just for a moment so we can understand what sociologists mean when they say that something is a social construction. First, you have the social part. This means that we create meaning through interaction. For example, what does a diamond ring mean? A diamond ring in many societies is a symbol of marriage, romantic commitment. How do you know this? Think about how you learned that a diamond ring is a symbol of marriage, engagement, commitment. Well, you might have seen a ring exchanged when a couple gets engaged. You might have been shown engagement rings as a child and been told what they mean. You may have seen rings in movies, in advertisements, read about them in books. And because so many people around you have agreed upon the meaning of a diamond ring, we say that the meaning comes from people and our interactions. In other words, it's social. The second part, this construction bit, reminds us that nothing contains meaning in and of itself. For example, diamonds are just bits of carbon. They don't have to have meaning. There's nothing inherent about carbon that suggests love or commitment. We, people, we construct that meaning. We make it through our interactions and through deciding as a group that diamonds will mean this, that they will mean romantic commitment. Okay, so coming back to the issue of gender, it's often the case that we give certain kinds of meaning to specific biologies. To get at why it's important or why sociologists study this, let's look at another concept, this idea of norms or social norms. You might think of norms in the most basic of ways. So think about the way you walk. I know that sounds kind of silly, right? But what do you do with your arms? What do you do with your legs, right? Think about how you walk, let's say, from your house to the store or just down the street. Here's a quick clip from the movie Dead Poets Society, where Robin Williams, a teacher, asks his students to walk around in a circle. You might recognize their form. Pretty normal, right? But then he asks them to try walking in a different way, to walk like a chicken, or to skip, to wobble around. Ask yourself how come you don't do that on a regular basis. You might get issued what we call negative sanctions. Someone might point at you or make a face or tell you to straighten up and walk properly. So for those of you who like clear definitions, norms are the shared rules and expectations that govern our behavior. And negative sanctions, there's such a thing as positive sanctions, but negative sanctions are punishments for disapproved behavior. And remember that they vary in intensity. Everything from frowning when someone is violating a social norm, to getting into jail for committing a crime, to name calling, or not getting hired for being perceived to be too masculine or feminine for a job, even when a person is capable. That's a negative sanction. Let's do a quick exercise to see how norms play into our understanding of gender. I want you to think about some words that might be associated with being a lady or acting like a lady. Any words at all you can think of for women and girls. Maybe they should be kind, sweet, graceful, emotional, nurturing. What else? Pretty. I've had a lot of students say good with people, family-oriented, gentle. Okay, so now let's draw another box. And on the top, let's say act like a man. So again, what are some of the expectations that we have in society for being a man? Okay, so I'm going to take some of the words that my students often use: aggressive, athletic, competitive, tough, concerned with money. Okay, so we have these two boxes set up. Now, outside the box, let's think of the names we call people who don't behave in those ways. We actually have a lot of negative names that we call people who aren't adhering to the norms expected by their gender. I've put some here that are a little bit milder, but we often harass and can issue some pretty harsh negative sanctions to individuals who don't adhere to norms. One of the most common issues in contemporary society is actually issuing negative sanctions to men who are emotional, and we know that men have emotions. So why do we do that? These sanctions can often serve to prevent people from acting in ways that are more natural to them. They may be monitoring their own behavior or making certain choices to avoid negative sanctions. You might see that a similar dynamic happens with occupations, that a lot of occupations are highly gendered, and there are norms and sanctions around those who participate in them. What I would suggest you do is try these boxes with certain occupations. What makes the ideal nurse? What kind of characteristics make the ideal investment banker? And do you see any similarities between what's in the box for those occupations and what's in the box for the various gender categories? Do the ideals of certain occupations match the ideals of certain genders? And if they do, can you imagine what types of negative sanctions a female banker or a male nurse might receive? For example, a lot of females might be encouraged to go into nursing, whereas a lot of males may not be because it doesn't fit in with gender norms. Sociologists distinguish between two types of segregation in the workplace. One is occupational level, meaning that certain types of jobs tend to have more people of a specific type of gender, and job level segregation, where certain types of positions in the same workplace will be overrepresented by certain genders. I'd love to show you a quick picture of what gender-based occupational segregation looks like in real life. This is the website to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's basically part of the United States Department of Labor, which is a government agency that collects information and facts about the American workforce, and it makes this information publicly available to all of us. So in this table, you see a list of occupations in America. Let me just make this a little bigger for you so we can take a deeper dive into how this works. Okay. So here you have the list of occupations, and here you'll see the total number of people employed in thousands, and then here you'll see a percentage breakdown by gender and race. Okay, for now we're just going to focus on gender. So let's look at these occupations here. We can scroll down a little bit. And what I want you to pay attention to is this column right here, this second column. So again, this is total employed. This is percentages, okay? And we're just going to look at this because we're focusing on gender and occupations right now. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here to education, right here. Education, training, and library occupations. I was particularly curious about this number right here. 97%, about 97% of preschool and kindergarten teachers are female. There are certainly a number of male kindergarten teachers. But given what you've learned about norms and the potential to receive negative sanctions from them, do you think that these men could receive negative sanctions? If they're not the norm, might they be perceived differently? Can they be normatively masculine in this occupation that seems to value feminine traits? So, if gender is a social construction, meaning that there's nothing inherent about our biology that makes females better nurses or males better bankers, then why do these professions or occupations have such differences in their gender composition? Why do the occupations seem gendered? This is what sociologists are interested in understanding. And remember, since sociologists see gender as socially constructed, we'll be looking closely at interactions between actors to better understand how gender plays a role in workplace dynamics and policies around pay and promotion.